be worth a negative fifth round pick.
Again, I'm just a fat dude sitting on the couch, but I watch a lot of football.
I'm here to kick ass and make steaks, and I'm all out of steaks.
Year one, he was like, all right, guys, I don't know what Dom taught you, but you need to have 11 guys on the field.
A trained orangutan could have done a better job than Ron Burns. And not even well trained.
Welcome, Packers fans, to the Titletown Sound podcast. This is episode 233 of this wonderful podcast. This is the podcast for fans of the Green Bay Packers and fans of their local newscaster. Today, ladies and gentlemen, is Hug a Newsman Day, and I think it's newsman. It's not gender specific. Hug a News Person Day. Now, a man who's been arrested for hugging in the past, and there wasn't even a lockdown in place. It's James Corsmo. James, how you doing?
You should have heard the news that day, man. It was so good, and I just couldn't control myself.
So you just went on a hugging spree?
Poor Tom Brokaw.
And what's the frequency, Kevin?
Name dropping.
And now, you heard him. There he is, my other co-host, a man who says, don't hug anyone, at least not until we get rid of the Ronas. It's Kevin Kristofko. Kevin, how you doing?
You had me at don't hug anyone.
Not a hugger, are you?
Not particularly.
All right, so we want to welcome people who are watching us live. Jason Hicks, one of our patrons, says, I usually listen to the podcast at 1.5 times speed. Can you guys talk a little faster? I'm sorry, we don't take requests, Jason, at all. No.
I'm a trifle deaf speaking to this here.
All right, Willie. We do have a guest tonight because we Kevin and I, we both got an email from this. I don't think it's gone too far to say influencer, Packer influencer. He's a man who really needs no introduction on this show, but he sent us both an email. We thought it was something worth talking about on the show. And
Chris, I've always wanted to do this. Do you mind?
Oh, here you go. You do.
Here's a man who needs no introduction.
And here he is. It's our dad, Papa K. Dad, how you doing?
Doing like a farmer in my field. Outstanding in my field.
Oh, I get it.
Bringing it strong to start. I like that.
Strong beginning.
So, Dad, you had a thought this evening. You sent it in an email, and it didn't come off as crazy, so we wanted to talk about it. Tell us what you think about the Packers. And James has no idea what we're going to talk about.
But full disclosure, before you start, my tinfoil hat is right here, so I can easily grab it and put it on if I need to.
I am completely on board. Dad, what do you think is going on here, or could go on here?
You mean the quarterback situation?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's some thoughts about what the Packers might do in terms of drafting a quarterback. Now, this isn't a negative thing in any way toward Aaron Rodgers, because if you watch the games, and I watched all of the games from the start of the season to the end, he actually did really pretty well considering Marquise Valdez-Scantling and Geronimo Allison and Jimmy Graham, and how especially the wide receivers just say a negative thing about Rodgers.
Hold on, Dad. Let's back up a second. Since on the wide receivers, we lost you for a second, and I wanted to tell that we may lose contact once in a while because since no one is leaving their house and is using the internet like this, it's a little bit more difficulty connecting. But so you were saying that the wide receivers,
Allison and Valdez-Scantling especially, weren't very good. And if you watch the games, especially toward the end of the year, they just disappear. Allison had numerous drops, as we all remember, and Valdez-Scantling just wasn't a factor. So while Rodgers didn't have one of his greatest years, he winning 13 games, scoring more points than the opponent 14 times, actually, really a pretty good accomplishment. And as far as what position the Packers should take, linebacker, wide receiver, that kind of thing,
Oh, he was just about to tell us. And he
Oh, it's a cliffhanger.
No, I don't think the Packers this player.
hold on. You froze again just as you were about to tell us what you think the Packers should do. It was brilliant. So
I don't know whether they should take an inside linebacker, wide receiver. I'm saying I don't know enough and haven't seen enough college football to really be able to tell who's the best player for them to take. What I wanted to talk about was, should the Packers take a quarterback? And if so, why should they take a quarterback?
Okay. And I want to say, before you talk about what you were going to say, I think most of us are kind of in agreement. This is probably 1 year too early. That's how I was looking at it. I was, in my mind, and I don't know how you feel about this, James, I was thinking, you know what? Next year is the year you really have to start looking. And this year, you probably don't, especially with the way the contract is structured. Were you along, James, did you feel the same way on that one?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. So, like, if for some reason somehow one of the big name quarterbacks had an Aaron Rodgers like slide,
Sure.
I don't know. Obviously it's not going to be Burrow because he's going number one, but if Tua or any of the other big name, the higher expectation guys slide down, okay, I'll entertain it. However, I mean, I feel like they're just like one quality wide receiver away from doing some damage.
So you would agree this is probably about a year, if not maybe two, but a year early at least.
I wish I knew more about if it's not in the Big Ten and doesn't involve Wisconsin or one of Wisconsin's opponents, I probably don't watch it. So I wish I knew more about who was coming out next year. But yeah, I mean, I feel like this might be just a year too early.
Okay, so let's get back to what you were saying, Dan.
Okay, Trump was talking today about he wants to see fans in stadiums in August and September.
I'm sorry, Pat. We're going to do it one more time. Just start over there because you did break up just as I asked you the question. You went to speak and it froze on us again. Go ahead.
Okay, I agree that it's probably 1 year too early. But what if? And what if, for example, Trump was talking today about wanting to have stadiums open in August and September and have games in August and September. And of course, that's what the NFL wants. But one of their main medical people has said, well, we can't really do that unless all the players and all the people connected with the organization test negative, because if one person has it, that means it can be spread again. So it's not a guarantee.
It's not a guarantee.
The other thing,
I think what you were saying was it's not a guarantee that there's going to be a season at all this year.
Or maybe just part of a season, but there's no guarantee that there will be a season. Now, the other thing in line with that, a lot of college athletic directors are concerned that there may not be college football or that it would be very limited college football. So let's say that it's very limited college football this year, or maybe none. That's certainly possible. Would there then be a 2021 draft? And if there is a draft in 2021, how could you evaluate quarterbacks or many other positions for that matter, if the guys haven't played in, say, a year and a half? Or let's say they play in the spring. How can you...
Right. Yeah. So you got these guys playing in the spring. What are you going to do?
In most limited games.
Right.
So what I'm saying is maybe, and Gutekunst knows this. I mean, he knows that there might not be football. Well,
he knows now that he's listened to us.
Yeah. Well, yeah, now that he's listened to us. So I'm just saying that maybe with that as a possibility, that might speed up Gutekunst's desire to get a quarterback if he thinks that there's somebody in this draft who can play and who can play well, that this might be the year he does it just to cover for himself and just to cover the team. Because Rodgers will be 38 before the 2021 season ends. Yeah. Do the Packers want to wait that long, let's say maybe the 2022 draft, to pick up
a quarterback. Right, exactly.
Right.
That's
We
exactly
can
what I would
quarterback
think.
when you need.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, because now you have to skip next year essentially if you don't get one now. If what happens, if what we think may happen happens, and that's a good. I think the interesting question is, what if there is an NFL season or part of one, but no college football season, and how does that work? And does everybody? It's so bizarre.
I mean, the college, I would imagine that there would be a draft, right? It's just a matter of the people who haven't played in the last year that are going to be drafted, right? Because people will still graduate, they'll still attend online school, whatnot. Some of them will, some of their alter egos will.
But how many of them will want to participate in that draft if they think, if they're not sure of their worth?
Well, that's true. But you would imagine that like there's the NCAA, they'll still have eligibility, right? They're not going to lose eligibility if they don't play in a year. Like, so if the year gets canceled, the people they could choose to either graduate or stay, I would imagine, right?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, it gets complicated. You don't know what.
I think the draft class is just really diluted. Like, I think that you would still have a draft, but you're going to get people who come out because they would get drafted where otherwise they would not. Right. So it would be like drafting XFL players.
Yeah, or the opposite, that you wouldn't. The people wouldn't want to be in the draft because they think they can prove their worth in their senior year. But anyway, back to the kind of the main hypothesis here. I agree that it may make a lot of sense because if we're going forward with the draft this month as scheduled, we will not know the fate of the NFL season yet. Obviously, there won't even be talks about, at least publicly, what's going to happen to the NFL season. So you've got a plan. I think you got a plan for it. This may now be the year where you've got to take Rodgers' replacement. James, what do you think?
That's a very compelling argument. I just don't. I just don't know who's out there that Gutekunst is going to be like, let's go get that guy. Because I think that if you just go get a guy to get a guy, then you're missing out on another guy that could potentially be helping the team. And if there's somebody out there they really have their heart set on, that they say, okay, if this dude's here in the second round or third round or fourth round, we'll get him. Okay, that's great. But if he's thinking, okay, there might not be a season, so I'm going to reach that, I don't know. That I don't know. I think Aaron has a good 4 to 5, maybe 6 years left. Maybe that's wishful thinking on my part, but
the talent they put around him too.
Right. And if you want to be win now, if Gutekunst and he's, they're saying, the Packers have said we're in win now mode, then you have to draft to win now. And I'm not entirely certain that drafting Aaron Rodgers, replacement is win now.
But James, I agree with that. But when now is really up in the air. There's but
that's true.
That becomes like, is now a good time to do something you wouldn't normally do because now was now, which was then.
When will then be now?
Now.
But when will tomorrow be? Then?
Classic. Okay, so I think there's a good argument to be made then that maybe you're happy to gamble that year because you need the talent now because you think with Rodgers they've got a good 3-4 years. Now, if you think that Rodgers is good for another 4 or 5 years, which I think is a stretch, is pushing it. But if you think that, then it's not time. Even if we do lose a season, it's not time to draft that replacement.
I don't know. I just know that, not to spoiler alert, because we're going to talk about this later, but he did mention that he would, with this week, that he would like to stay at the Packers and play until he's early to mid 40s. If he's healthy enough to do so at a high level, but then again, you're mortgaging your future there if you don't get his replacement. So it's kind of a catch-22. And I guess for me, it just all comes down to who's available and where are they available at. And what does Gutekunst have? What is it? What are the rankings on his board? Does he have wide receiver, linebacker, quarterback, or is it quarterback? Who knows? I don't know.
Do you think he has them on magnets?
I hope he does, because that's how I would do it.
You move around.
He just has a really big refrigerator in the war room and all the magnets on there.
And it's full. It's just
and some doodles from some of the players attached here and there.
all all sorts of lunch meats and gourmet toppings.
Like a picture of a dog that was drawn by like Mike Daniels in 2015.
At 30, they would have to put something together to move up, I would imagine, if you're looking to take a quarterback with an impact. Now, admittedly, I know nothing about this draft class. Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, if you're thinking that, wouldn't a couple of draft picks in next year's draft not really mean as much to you as they would in any other year?
Yeah, no, I agree. So it's if you're all in on the gamble or all out, that's
right.
Have to do it. So what do you think? I'll ask you first, Dad. What do you think that the chances are? First of all, that we have, and again, we're guessing. We're not, obviously, we don't really know anything, but that's how we usually operate the show. If you had to guess, you think we're going to have a season this coming year?
I would think at least part of a year. And the reason for that is the NFL is so money driven.
It's money driven. It's extremely
money driven. Yep.
You'd probably be willing to play in empty stadiums if it meant having some money from the TV contract. So if for no other reason, I would think there would be some games because of the money factor.
Okay. But if they don't play, they don't pay the players either. So the expenses, I mean, I guess there's like probably 3 stadiums that have to be rented. Everything else is free to the teams. But like, yeah, I wonder if they want to play in empty stadiums.
Yeah. Baseball is talking about it.
Basketball is talking about it too for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, baseball plays in empty stadiums until June or July anyway. So
Valid point.
Not a bad point. But
depending on where they're at, they play in empty stadiums all year long.
But the problem with that is I know that's what we're hearing them talk about, but I don't know that that's legit because, like, think about baseball. They operate similarly to the NFL in that, and every, I guess, league with a CBA, in that there's a division of the profits. And the players get, let's say, 52%. The owners get like 48% of the profits. Well, that's how they decide what kind of salaries they're going to pay based on that projection. So the problem can be if you don't have that gate attendance, you're now paying salary. Like you're really crushing your own profit margins. But they're still old, rich white dudes making money. So they're just making less, I guess.
And in terms of this quarterback, it would certainly not be a situation where the Packers would reach. The Packers aren't desperate to do this. But they also they're not going to go with Tim Boyle as the backup. So, and Rodgers is going to be 37 this year. Some more injuries over the last few years. So he's questionable. He could get injured. He's old. Quarterbacks in this club.
I'm trying here. Okay. So I think this is the first time that they've been in the chat. I'm going to murder this name. I apologize. Nitsuj Nomiel, if that's the name or a screen name. I'm awful. Anyway, makes the remark that great points by all. I could be wrong, but I think that it would be wise to finally get number 12 some elite help from this historically deep draft at 30. And that's talking about, getting a wide receiver at 30. This is supposed to be a great draft class for that. And I think in a lot of ways that may make sense unless there's one of those dramatic falls, James.
Yeah, I mean,
the good thing about this is that there are great receivers supposedly as far as the 2nd and 3rd round. So, the Packers don't have to get a wide receiver in the 1st round.
But the problem is if they try to package something to move up in the 1st, they're going to be giving away those opportunities in the 2nd and the 3rd, most likely. If you're going to move up from 30 any higher than 27, you're throwing a lot at that.
Yeah, I mean, I just really, in my opinion, if I'm GM, which I'd be horrible at, just let's be honest here, mainly because I like to spend money that's not mine. But if I'm GM, I'm looking at this draft and the wide receiving core, the crop of wide receivers in this draft is just out of this world. It would be really difficult for me after what Papa K said earlier with Geronimo Allison being bad last year and Valdez-Scantling, being, to put it mildly, inconsistent. for me. My first priority would be let's get Aaron Rodgers some guys that can catch a ball and run with it.
Yeah.
And then after that, in the second, third, fourth round, if a quarterback we like is there, and we think he could sit behind Aaron for a couple years, and we can kind of make him a project like Aaron was, but behind Brett Favre, then yeah.
You almost forgot Brett Favre's name.
I almost forgot Brett Favre's name. Look, I haven't drank in over almost 2 months, and I just had a White Claw, and that's where I'm at in my life.
We'll never forget you, Brent.
Neither will Jen Swerver.
Well, I think Dad's feed may be frozen anyway. We're having difficulty.
I hope that's the case.
He's just about to sneeze. That's all.
Either that or he had a stroke. So let's hope it's the former and not the latter, because we're definitely walking a tightrope there. I don't know if I'm supposed to wait for him to come back before I kick him off the show, or if he'll understand that he's gone. Oh,
he gone.
He did it himself.
Or if he's talking. I think he left. All right, I'm gonna hide that. And go, Bill. Okay, I forgot what I wanted to talk about after that.
I love Papa K. I really do.
I think that's his second live appearance on the show. First time with video. And quite frankly, I'm astonished that we were able to figure out the technology with him. Kevin knows this was no easy task.
Yeah, he can accept FaceTime calls.
That's
and, apparently do this as well. So those are the two things he can do.
The other day, I texted him and said, "You want to FaceTime with the girls?" Because my kids wanted to say hi. And he's like, "Yep, I'm ready. What do I do?" I'm like, no, whoa, I was just probing. I was just asking. We weren't setting a date. Slow down.
Putting it out there.
Well, but to be fair, we're going to do this for the rest of this segment. We're going to talk about kind of what's going on in our lives. But to be fair, he's like on full lockdown. There's nobody at the house. It's just him. He has to do some shopping though, still, doesn't he?
He went to the store recently, and I picture him as like Kevin McAllister in Home Alone, like ambling through the aisles, looking left and right, like picking up the orange juice and putting that in, crossing it off his list. People looking at him like, "Oh, this man, that's so nice. They let him out of the home to go shopping." Like
shoplifting a toothbrush.
Anyway, so yeah, I was glad we were able to hook up with him today, but it's weird out there, and it's getting weirder, and with restrictions and stuff that's going on. But how's it affecting you guys? What's anything different for you, James?
I mean, no, we're kind of settling into this whole, lifestyle it is now. The homeschooling or with the kids and all that stuff. I've been out. I haven't been out. I've been working a lot. As most of you guys probably know, my job is in public safety, so I'm out.
And as most of you know, my job is in pubic safety.
Sometimes the path.
Here's my favorite thing about Kevin on the show. When he knows that he's got something that's going to make me laugh, like when he knows he's got one of those, every time he leans into the mic and it's going to deliver better. And it's every time. So, and because he knows that joke had a target of 1. Now he hopes that some of our listeners laugh, but he knows that I'll laugh. So that's why he's telling that joke. Anyway.
Guilty as charged.
That's one of your more endearing traits, and I like it too. No, so I've been at work a lot, but I haven't been out. I haven't really done a lot. I went grocery shopping for the first time really since this whole thing kicked off today, and it was just I knew in my brain what I was going to see. I knew what was going to be there, and I still was taken aback.
Yeah.
Just the giant hockey like plexiglass windows in front of all the cashiers, and there was lines taped on the floor like for people to, and like the big huge stickers on the floor saying "Stand here." I'm like, what? There were people. They had employees, full gloves and masks, whose sole job were to direct people to checkout lanes. It's not to mention, the shelves being bare for half the things that you need. Yeah, so it's incredible right now.
Kev, have you had to go out much?
So I mean, like in typical when I'm not in quarantine lockdown, I usually go to the grocery store at least once every other day, probably once a day. Because like we're very like, oh, it's 4:30. What do we want for dinner tonight? Let's go get it. That kind of thing. And we basically obviously had to change that entirely, which is good because like we now have like an idea of like what we're gonna have for dinner, and it's a little bit of structure is good. But it's really bizarre not being like, okay, well, I'm just going to jump in the car and run out and get this because you just can't. Another thing that I've noticed that I'm walking a lot because I got 2 dogs. And so like the kids are sleeping in until like 9 o'clock. So I wake up at like 6:30. By 7 o'clock, I'm out the door. I get home from my walk at like 8:15 and the kids are still asleep for an hour. And it's like, all right, now what? So it's bizarre. It's been really, I mean, it's been kind of cool, but kind of bizarre. We haven't really started our school stuff starts on Monday. They finally got around to like sending us curriculum and stuff. So that'll be a challenge. That's going to be a beast.
So patron and friend of the show, Jason Hicks, writes that because I want to get your opinion on this because I think it's amazing. ESPN is talking with NBA about televising games of horse between players in their own personal gyms. With a nation so starved for sports, I think they would watch. People are watching simulated sporting events. James, how popular would this be?
Here's what's going to happen. People are going to talk all kinds of crap about it. They're going to mock it and make fun of it and say, this is stupid, I'm not watching it. And then everybody is going to watch it. I will watch it. Everybody's and it's going to do it's going to do amazing ratings. And you know what? For what it is, it'll probably be entertaining.
Oh yeah. Well, there's not. What's the alternative?
Right. I mean,
so there used to be televised horse. I've seen it before. It was not entertaining. Now that being said, it was like it was like George Gervin, like underhanded shots, like from like 12 feet away off the backboard. Like, okay, cool. But like that and like, do you remember when baseball used to have the home run derbies in black and white?
Yes.
Or maybe just because we had a black and white TV, Chris. I don't know. But that was always cool. That's another thing that you could do with no crowd. But I think, and I wanted to talk about this.
You could do that remotely too. You could do one in one stadium, one in another.
That's true. And the one thing that I did want to talk about before we were talking about playing football games through this whole thing is that I think fundamentally, like, wouldn't everybody who's doing this have to be tested? So there'd have to be enough tests for all of this, and we're not even at that point yet. So,
well, we'll get there before training camp. But think about this: it's going to have to everyone's going to have to test negative on the team
every week, right? Like that's what I mean. Like you can't, like, right? Like,
so what's your plan if one player tests positive? Like, you know what I mean? Like you got to have a plan. So you got to say, all right, am I going to shut the whole friggin' season down again if a kicker tests positive, or am I going to risk that everybody tests positive? How do you handle that? That's why I think there's a really good chance. I hate to be a naysayer, but I think there's a really good chance that we don't have a season this year, because how are we going to get to that point when?
I mean, if they're talking at least a year for a vaccine that's going to be good enough to keep I don't see how they could play a football season starting in September. I just don't.
And even later than that, because you're not going to want those big gatherings. Like I was supposed to go see Pearl Jam last weekend. That didn't happen. I still went. There was nobody there. It was really weird.
Just sang the song yourself.
No, but so they're saying they're going to reschedule for October, but are they really going to want to have 11,000 people in a building pressed up against each other in October? Is that early enough? And I'm worried that we're not going to have any season at all, let alone, because what's your plan? So that's that's the question. All right, everybody tests negative at the start of training camp. What do I do? What happens if we come back next week and that guy that wasn't going to make the roster anyway, he tests positive? Do we practice our position groups differently so that it doesn't spread that far if they do test? What do you do? That's the question.
Well, there's no feasible way to run practices if this is still a concern. I mean, they're not even allowing free people to visit teams.
Right.
We have to get to a point where more than two people are going to be allowed to be in a room together. It's, you know, and then you have the geographical aspect of it too. I mean, you know, nobody wants to be in New York right now. Nobody wants to be in Florida right now. You know, so what happens if there's a hot spot that pops up in, you know, Dallas in October, and then all of a sudden, oh crap, we're 2 games in and now half of Dallas has this thing. You know, I mean, you got to think about all that too.
Yeah, no, I agree. Kevin, what do you think the chances are we have a season?
I mean, so like 2 days after they closed school, and my daughter was like inconsolable, I went for the jugular, and I was like, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think you're going back to school this year. And I still think that's the case with school. Our schools haven't decided, but I mean, that's probably, they're probably not going back. And I think it's going to be that type of thing.
Especially if they build a reasonable online learning system.
Right. They wouldn't. You're right. But I mean, yeah, I mean, the key is that everybody has to be vaccinated, tested. All this has to happen before people can get back into crowds safely again. And there's some time for that. I think that's the one thing that, you know, this isn't a couple of weeks. This is going to be, you know, maybe it may not be as intense as this.
Right.
But
you don't want to
sporting events, like those aren't happening for a while.
I think you're right. Yeah.
It's got depressing real quick.
It's super depressing.
It is, because I'm just thinking about, I've got a vacation planned July 4th weekend. I don't think that's happening. I don't think Disneyland is going to they want people there, but I don't think they're going to be open. Because you heard what Papa K was saying, is that, you know, California is hesitant to have sporting events by the fall. Imagine, you know, thinking about opening these huge theme parks. So I'm not counting on that. And I'm hoping that we have another one to Disney World planned in late November. I'm hoping that one's okay. You know,
I've got one the week after you to Disney World.
What they may do is they may limit space. It may turn out to be the most amazing thing ever, where you have fewer people in the parks, but something. I can't imagine we're back to life as normal. I just don't see that. And so the other thing I want to talk about was lighten it up a bit. This is, if you're watching on YouTube, this is 5 days of beard growth for me. Now, I had the goatee.
I shaved yesterday.
But I shaved the goatee down.
Me too.
For one. Kevin, how long would it take you, 2 days to be well beyond this? I mean, in some spots, I got some soft spots going on here.
Yeah. No, I mean, if we recorded, what's tonight? Saturday. If we recorded on Wednesday, I'd probably, I'd pass you.
You would have outstripped me by then?
I think so. And I'd be scratching my face off. That's why I'm trying to shave, because it's really, you know, in this Rona universe, I don't really want to be scratching my face too much.
Yeah, Jason Hicks would like us to compare our beard girth. I'm going to pass on using that language.
Well, there might be a title for the episode, though. I already got that.
All right. So before we go to break, I meant to put this on the schedule before this, but I didn't. We have a new patron, and this is someone that we owe an apology to, Nicholas Vorpal. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, but Nicholas or Nick. Or I guess that would be
Vorpal.
Well, yeah, maybe
Pal and Vorpal.
Vorp. Or hey, Vorp? Pal. Yeah, but I think Vorp is a better nickname. Anyway, Vorp. Mr. Vorp, as I like to call him,
as he likes to be called.
He actually was a patron for last episode as well, and I didn't get a notification from Patreon, and I apologize. So this we should have mentioned good old Vorp, as everyone knows him. And loves him last week. So thank you for becoming a patron. And if you want to become a patron, you can do that at patreon.com/TTSO. And for a small per episode donation, you will get our bonus show. You'll get our unending gratitude. And if you join the Hall of Fame by pledging a certain amount, I don't know what that is off the top of my head, you will be mentioned on every show, just like the OG patrons who we're going to talk about now.
Yes, we are going to talk about those OG patrons who are so near and dear to our hearts.
Near.
Because, of course, they're so Scott near to our hearts. because I did not prepare for these. I don't have anything clever here. So our patrons, and we're very thankful for them. They are Scott Neer, Jason Hicks, Milo Meadsong, Hunter Schur, Chris Korsmo, Jeff Augustine, and finally J.O. Hamblin. Oh, wait, that's a typo from last week. James Hamblin. Thank you for all of our patrons and all of your support.
We really appreciate it. Especially with, I know not you're off your regular schedule, so maybe you're not listening to your podcast at the same time, but just think of, and I know you're not listening to your podcast at the same time because our numbers in the last couple of weeks have been lower. But what I will tell you is you are in for a treat when this is over, sometime mid-2021, and you get to listen to the back catalog of the Title Town podcast on your first commute back to work. All right, when we come back, we're going to cover the news. Well, we're not going to cover anything. We're just going to comment on news other people have done. And that's about it. Then we'll get out of here. All right, we'll be back in just a couple minutes. Did you know that you can help support our show financially without any additional cost to you? Well, if you use Amazon, and let's face it, who doesn't? You can go through our Amazon affiliate link, and we'll get a small portion of the proceeds. You pay nothing extra, and you still get your awesome stuff delivered in like 2 days. So go to www.titletownsoundoff.com/Amazon. You just order like you normally would, and you help the show. That's www.titletownsoundoff.com/Amazon. Happy shopping.
If you would like to support the show and help others find it, give us a review and a rating. Go to Apple Podcasts and write something nice and give us 5 stars. Thanks.
Welcome back, Title Town Sound listeners and co-hosts. Oh, I'm sorry, co-host. Because I'm joined with James Korsmo. And just before we get to him, there he is, Kevin Christopko. That you guys are, if you're not watching us on YouTube, you're missing the drama that is wondering if Kevin will make it back after the break, and hoping that he remembers to take himself off of mute.
Listen. The bathroom is right there. I just had to pee real quick.
I'm glad you didn't Frank Drebin us and leave that on the air.
I double checked.
We really should have some sort of like a spread 'em type line or something. If he's gonna every week, everybody can bet.
No, because then he'll start betting and manipulating the line, and we'll explain why the podcast went broke, and Kevin suddenly has a gold-plated microphone. All right, we are going to cover some news this week, but before we do that, James,
yes,
fine people we have to talk about, aren't there?
There are. So there are Hall of Fame patrons. They're Hall of Fame, just like Leroy Butler should be Hall of Fame. We have.
They are. They can actually say, "I'm a Hall of Famer."
Hey guys.
Right.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Leroy Butler and Jermichael Finley, Paul Goldsack, Kyle Turpinning, DJ Lightfoot, and Will Zine Savage. And now all these people. All these guys, their beards grew 10 inches during this show already.
Oh, wow.
10 inches.
So
around.
All right, beauty. So let's get to headlines while we still can. So I have to play. There's a reason I say that.
Spanning the globe to bring you all of the news that's fit to podcast. It's Kevin Christopko.
So Kevin tells me via Messenger that his phone is on 3%, and if we don't get through the headlines, he may have to riff. So let's go.
Yeah, definitely.
You ready for story number one then? Okay, here
Let's
we go.
do it. Yep. Age, sex, position. Packers cyber with potential quarterback.
Okay, so quarterback Jordan Love was cybering with the Packers. James, what can you tell me about this?
Not a lot. Basically, Jordan Love grew up in Wisconsin. He's a Wisconsin boy, I believe, Green Bay area. I don't know. I could be wrong. I haven't really read too much about him. And he went off to some tiny school. Again, don't remember which one it is because that would require research.
Is it Center for Ants?
I think it's like North Dakota Polytechnic or something like that.
Utah State.
Utah State?
I mean, that's what Google says.
Oh, well, then Google's probably right.
Yes.
I suppose Utah State's not a tiny school, but it's in Utah. So
I mean, yeah, it's yeah.
I mean, you graduate and instead of a diploma, they give you 2 wives. We don't have any listeners in Utah, so I'm okay with that.
Do we really not? Do we really have not?
I don't know. If we do, I'm sorry, guys. I know your whole state's not polygamous. It's an easy joke, and I made it.
While I find out how many listeners we have from Utah, tell me more.
These are trying times, guys, and I got to aim for the lowest fruit here. So apparently, there's been a lot of talk that he'd be a good fit for Green Bay. And
where's he? Do you have any idea where he's projected to go? Like what?
I don't know if he's projected to go in the draft at all. I don't know if they're talking draft or a free agent.
So let's see. We have had that. Whoa. Is that just last episode? There were 4 Utahns who listened to our show. So to all of you,
most likely the same family.
Yeah, they're all sister wives. We want to thank you for listening and for taking our abuse. So do you think it's more likely that the Packers will take a shot on a guy like Love who ends up being like an undrafted free agent or a 6th round, 5th, even if his stock is rising, a late 5th round guy? Do you think you think it's more likely they take a shot on a guy like that than on a pedigree Aaron Rodgers replacement?
This year, yeah, just because I think there's 3 really high quality quarterbacks, and then there's like 2 or 3 that are, mid-level, and then it just tanks after that. And I don't see Goody trading up to number 4 in the draft to get,
you would have to get a quarterback your entire draft and part of next year's.
Right.
And I think this is a different era too, where you're not really going to see too many more Aaron Rodgers type quarterbacks slip to late 20s in the draft.
You would think.
There's just so many teams taking there's so few great quarterbacks that so many teams would take that quarterback now versus, back then it wasn't as. What's that?
Like, the more you think about it, the more.
But hasn't the game become a lot more offensive oriented in the last 10, 12? Like the roughing the passer rules have changed the quarterback position in that time span greatly. I mean, so I think that that's just become more of an important position in the game as quarterback. Because remember, it used to be like running back used to be like super important, and then that kind of faded out because it was like, oh wait, we can get a dime a dozen running backs, but quarterbacks are the ones where there's only 3 or 4 top ones, and those are.
So I want to thank Jason Hicks, patron friend of the show, and bailing us out when we're idiots. Points out that Love is projected to be a late 1st round, early 2nd round kind of guy.
That's XFL. He's projected as a late 1st, early 2nd XFL round. Just to clarify.
I admittedly don't often pay a whole lot of attention pre-draft because I feel like it's a lot of energy wasted. Like I'm just not. That's not me. Some people are into it. But especially this season, I've found it hard to engage in anything other than like work and be at home. Like I love doing this show because half of it we just get to bull ass about whatever we want to, and it's actually like getting together with friends. Even though I don't consider either of you really friends,
not particularly.
So if Love is in that range of where the Packers are picking, and seems like a legit guy, but. That's a tough pick to use this year. Papa K had me convinced, and now I'm back off the fence. I just don't know what to think.
For me, it's just the need for wide receiver to me is so much more pressing than the need for a quarterback.
But James, that's the thing, though. Is there a need? If they don't play, they don't have a need this year I see what you're saying, but if there are no games this year, if that's what the angle is, then you don't need that wide. I mean, you don't. If it's still, I don't know. It's a very tricky situation.
But then they're still going to need wide receivers when they do start playing again. I mean, it's not like they're
still going to have deep wide receiver class. So I think that your late second round pick, if you could get a receiver there that you're happy with in the late second round, based on what people are saying about this draft class. Again, I don't know anything. I'm just here to be funny.
Yeah, I don't. Go, Kev.
I was going to say, it's a dynamic that we have no idea how it's going to play out, right? Like, that's the one thing about this whole situation that's bizarre, even at home and here. Like, tomorrow is going to bring something different for it's just different. And we have no idea what to expect. We have no idea when the games are going to start. We have no idea what the GMs are thinking. They could, come out of left field with something because they're thinking something different than we are. It's just really just very bizarre in general.
They could miss their pick altogether and let the Cowboys pick. Sorry, that was just the Vikings that one time. Sorry.
Still amazing that happened. That they didn't get their pick in.
So great.
The Vikings. All right. Anything else on this story?
I love to talk about it.
Story number 2.
Old Man Rogers and Old Man Winter together forever.
Oh, well done. I like that. It was well crafted.
That was nice. That told a story.
Rogers, that spoke to me. So Aaron Rodgers says this week that where was he giving an interview? Open, the article. But Aaron Rodgers basically said he thinks he can play well past 40. He wants to do it in Green Bay. He was with Pat McAfee and AJ Hawk, whose headphones kept flying off in the middle of the interview. Thanks. He said, his legacy is really important. He wants to do it all in Green Bay. But he does say, I know the track record of our squad. There have been times when they've had veteran players and they've finished elsewhere. I get it. I'd like to make that decision easy for them. So he wants to keep playing at a high level and wants to do it in Green Bay and blah, blah, blah. James, is this just Aaron Rodgers being a good representative of the franchise?
I honestly, look, everybody listening knows that I am like Aaron Rodgers stan forever and ever and ever. I will, I'm like Annie Wilkes to his Paul, whatever Wilkes. Paul's last name was. That's a Misery. It's a book by Stephen King. It was also a movie. It was very good. Very well done. But no, so my answers to these things always tend to skew towards Aaron's an angel. But I really do think that I really do think that Aaron Rodgers wants to play until he's 42 years old, and I really, really do think he wants it to be here. I mean, he seems like the type of, and he's put roots down here. He bought a stake in the Bucks, the Milwaukee Bucks. He's a partial owner of the Milwaukee Bucks. He for a while he was owning restaurants with Ryan Braun of the Brewers until Braun had some issues. So I mean,
ironically, steroid-free beef.
It was.
Why did he keep wanting to open up juice bars? That I didn't understand.
Why did he keep using air quotes with?
I mean, he's put roots down here. I think this is his place. And
James, I don't know if you call them roots.
Roots. Is okay, but same. Is it creek or crick? A small body of water.
It depends on how far west in Pennsylvania you go. So around me, I live near a creek. But if I drove 2.5 hours west, I would be near a creek.
And squalor, most likely. How many listeners in Western Pennsylvania do we have?
So we've offended Utah and Western Pennsylvania tonight. We're doing okay.
It's really Central PA. That's the gem. And I think we're allowed to say that, Kevin, because we come from that stock.
Right. Yes.
I spent the week in Altoona one night. Hey-o! Yeah. That's Pennsylvania, not Wisconsin. So Aaron Rodgers wants to grow old with the Green Bay Packers. That's sweet. I still predict a horrible divorce at some point in the future. I think it ends poorly. Not horrible. I shouldn't say horrible, but I don't think Aaron Rodgers finishes his career in the green and gold. I really don't.
Maybe he'll go to Tampa Bay when Birdie retires.
God, I can't wait to see him fail this year. God, they have to have a season. They have to have a season. I have to see Tom Brady outed as a system quarterback. I want that offensive line to be perfect. I want him to have 12 seconds every play, and I want him to still be terrible. Why do I hate him so much?
That was pretty much how it was last year in New England. So he had 12 seconds every play, and he was still bad. So I'm looking forward to seeing that and creamsicle.
And he's also not going to be playing against the same division the entire year. So that's going to be different.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. All right, story number 3.
Let's see if my phone is still alive. So yeah, story number 3 lives on.
Here we go.
Rex Ryan called Antonio Brown a turd. That's the headline. He called him a turd.
It was.
First of all, no, we didn't.
No, what did we
not
do?
call Antonio Brown a turd.
What do we do?
You said Antonio Brown. It's Amari Cooper.
Oh no! Yeah, him too.
You just assumed Antonio Brown was a turd. You're not wrong. You did
is a turd.
wrong.
You guys roll the tape back. That's what I said. You guys you're just listening wrong.
I'm sure. I'm sure we're listening wrong. James, this story made the show as a pet project of yours. I'd like to hear you talk about it.
I don't know. There's really no reason at all for this to be as funny to me as it is. But it's hilarious. So Rex Ryan was on, I believe it's called Get Up, which is the dumbest name for a show ever, but it's on ESPN. It's like
filmed at Morningwood Studios.
Wait. Hacker Blake 91 asks, would that be Amari Pooper? And that is our Culver's Kern comment of the week. That's it.
Oh my God! Can we get Culver's to sponsor? That'd be fantastic. So
you're listening. Hold on. If you've ever been to a Culver's, or if you know a Culver's franchisee, to have Culver's sponsor the Culver's Curd comment of the week, $5 an episode. That's all I ask. Just because I almost want to pay. I want to be able to say Culver's is a sponsor, but if I pay to have them sponsor, then they're not sponsoring, so they would have to sponsor.
Do we know anybody named Culver? And then we could just be like the Culver, like Culver's, like the family, but we wouldn't say that part.
It's a good point. But no,
I'm just trying to get creative here.
If I knew someone named Culver, I would have asked them already if they were related to the Culvers. So that's how I know.
Yeah.
Anyway, what were we talking about?
Oh God, I love Culver.
I was talking about Antonio Brown.
He's a turd.
We were talking about Amari Cooper.
So Rex Ryan, Captain Foot Fetish, was on Get Up. What a dumb name. Was on the show Get Up on ESPN.
Hold on,
we can see him, Rex.
So here's how that meeting went at ESPN, guys. Look, sports are about to stop. I want to create a show, and I want to give it. What I would like to do is look, guys, I got a show named Cold Pizza once, and I would like to try to find a show that has a worse name than Cold Pizza. What do you got? And Get Up was the decision they came up with.
It's so dumb. So Rex Ryan's on this show, and they're talking about Amari Cooper's contract, and he says that Amari Cooper is the biggest disappearing act in all of football, and he wouldn't pay this turd any money at all. He literally said, I would not pay this turd any money. Ryan.
I think I like Rex Ryan because he just humanizes more. He kind of Baltimoreizes the glamorous position of a football coach. Like you think of a football coach as like this like smart, like well-learned guy who like can bridge the gap between jocks and smarts. Not Rex Ryan, man. He's just he's just looking at feet.
It's just incredible to me that, like, I get Amari Cooper. He does have a history of disappearing in big moments. I get that. But you're on ESPN. You can't be calling players turds. Like, we could do that. Like, if I wanted to say, hey, Kirk Cousins is a massive turd, that's cool because A, it's true, and B, I'm just a dude.
Also,
but you're Rex Ryan.
Also, true story. My now 6-year-old, she still said, like, when she says third, it's thud. So we love to make her say those words because we're a-holes, but it's so cute. Like, I can't help it. So I had her say the third bird turd. So it was thud, bud, tud, and it just made me smile, right? It made me happy. So then my brother-in-law changed, the girls have their own Netflix login, and he changed the name of their Netflix login to Tuds, Tuhwds. So I'm sorry, that was a long way to go, but I had a turd story. I had to tell it. Most of my other turd stories you don't want me to tell. Trust me.
Oh, so yeah, that's basically it. That's basically it. Rex Ryan, a 67 or 68-year-old man, got on national TV and called a professional athlete a turd.
All right, it's a pretty good show this week. Papa K making his first video appearance, second live appearance. We talked about turds, and I think overall a successful show. Kev, before we get out of here, anything to add?
Never. Not in the one time that I've been doing this show, I've had anything to add.
I know, but why do I feel
beginning and or middle of the show?
James, how about you?
I'm going to switch things up a little bit on the fly here. And if you've made it 57 minutes into this thing, tweet us the phrase,
"Ooh,
Kirk Cousins is a turd."
Yes. And I promise I will retweet every one of them from our account. Every single one of you who tweets to us. Should it be a hashtag? Should it just be hashtag Kirk Cousins is a turd? Or should it just be the phrase? All right. Do both. Write out Kirk is a turd, and then hashtag Kirk Cousins is a turd.
It could be hashtag turd cousins.
That's what I was thinking.
There we go. Okay. So what I'd like you to say is tweet us Kirk Cousins is a turd, hashtag turd cousins.
Yes, that is it right there. That is what we're asking you.
I'm going to check something. I'm going to check to see if anyone has ever tweeted turd cousins before.
I've got a couple of turd cousins, but
me too.
Turd cousins. Search.
Does sound like an Urban Dictionary term.
Yes, it has been used many times.
I don't care.
Well, hold on. Oh, no, not that many. Not that many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, as far as I'm concerned. I can tell both of them referring to, or all of them referring to Kirk Cousins. But anyway, tweet us that. We love it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We're going to try to get regular shows out here. Stay safe. Stay home if you can. Not everybody has that luxury. And I don't know.
And hey, real seriously, though, thanks to all the people who every day are going out and doing their jobs, even though a lot of people around this country don't think you deserve to make more money. So thank you for your
right. Yeah, it's not like the economy is built on the backs of people who should be making at least $15 an hour or anything. You know, not like the people at the grocery stores and delivering our food are literally keeping us alive or at least sane. You had to go 59 minutes into this episode before I went insane about the current administration. But I mean, if you're still listening and you're ultra conservative, God bless you. I don't know how. That might have been too far. All right. Well, we're going to get out of here before I say anything else that pisses more people off. Thank you.
Bye, Utah.
Bye. Bye. Literally, bye. We'll never see Utah again.
Bye, Central and Western Pennsylvania.
And Central and Western PA. But everybody else out there. Oh, and all conservative. Damn it. All right. We'll see our listener next week. Take it easy.
The preceding podcast was a production of Productions Institute, LLC. Copyright 2019. All rights reserved. Don't steal our crap.